Good evening, dear parents. We are about to start our program. This is just to let us know that we can put up our questions about the topic that is up for discussion today in the chat box. And then as the panelist goes on, all our questions will be addressed. Remember, the topic up for discussion today is children and technology, raising children in the digital era. So do not hesitate to let us know your contributions or your questions in the chat box as we bring the program to a commencement.
Vous pourrez faire vos commentaires et vos questions. Donc, les saisir dans la base, dans la barre de chat. Voilà. Aussi, nous souhaiterions vous annoncer que cette conférence sera disponible en traduction simultanée, tant en anglais qu'en français. À l'attention des parents et invités qui souhaiteraient avoir donc la version française, vous n'aurez qu'à cliquer sur le français pour n'avoir que la version française de la conférence. Et en ce moment, il vous faudra mettre sous silence l'audio principal et cliquer sur français, tout simplement. Je vous remercie. Nous tenons à rappeler également que le thème de notre conférence du jour, c'est les enfants et la technologie, éduquer à l'ère du digital. Autrement dit, comment éduquer nos enfants à l'ère du digital.
Let us pray. Father, we want to thank you for a time like this. We want to thank you for bringing us together. We commit the time and all the aspects of this meeting into your hands. May the purpose for which this meeting is being held be met. Amen.
Amen. Nous venons donc d'assister à la prière d'ouverture faite par Madame Concentric, la sous-directrice, qui a commis donc cet instant dans les mains puissantes de Dieu. Merci, Madame la sous-directrice.
A very good evening to everyone. Welcome and thank you.
Soyez les bienvenus et merci de nous rejoindre ici. Nous remercions le bon Dieu pour un bon trimestre, un bon deuxième trimestre. La reprise est prévue.
The third term is very short, but packed with many programs such as graduations, extended exams, etc., etc. So we need the cooperation of everyone to end the academic year on a good note. We have amended our COVID protocols, and you will receive the document just before the end of this forum. For our topic today is children and technology, parenting or raising up children in the digital era. The last time we met or get together, we looked at parenting in the 21st century. It was successful. We learned a lot, and I know most of you are putting them into practice. The pandemic, which is now behind us, brought in some benefits, like having school meetings, having conferences, webinars we are doing today, online school, but it's also brought in some new challenges. As a school, our main challenge has been technology and its impact on our students. COVID-19 opened technology in homes that previously had no access. Our wards were exposed to many information applications. It was just like a Pandora's box opened up to children. Some of them I spoke to TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and name it. For my research using Mgis as a case study, we suggest that there are 8 out of 10 students that have access to technology and internet. And we see the effect on the children. Some come to school very tired, asleep, because they have been using internet throughout the night. It affects their well-being, it affects their mental health. Others visit sites that do not help them. There are some who chat with people they don't know, strangers, and even they meet them somewhere. We have problems of bullying, cyberbullying, and all kinds of issues. So the question is, do we withdraw the access of the internet? Do we throw away our laptops, the children's laptops? Or we just throw our hands up and say, let technology take over the children? This is the more reason why we are gathering this evening and to look into this issue. How do we bring up our children during this digital era? We can't apply the grades to technology. It has come to stay. A few weeks ago, we wrote our first external exams online, and it will not stop there. So tonight, as I said, our topic is
à la technologie et donc
digital era. And to help us, we have our honorable guest speaker, Dr. PERBI. We sent out his profile. He's not new to Morning Glory International School. 2 years ago, he visited us and he had the opportunity to speak to the children in the secondary school, JHS, and up to the high school. The children were so touched, they were so impressed, and they wanted him to come back as a guest speaker for the class of 2020. But unfortunately, we had this pandemic. And today we are here with him, and we believe the right person to help us start a discussion, learn some things about how to put in balances and checks on the proper use of technology in our sector, education with children. So, Mr. Dr. PERBI, I want to welcome you, and happy to see you, and we are ready to hear you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Madam Headmistress, and thank you for inviting me to be here today. I know there's translation going on, so I'll try and talk as slowly as possible, but usually I'm a fast talker. So if you need to slow me down, let me know. Morning Glory is a beautiful school. I enjoy the time with the children, and some of them sent me emails, and I did respond to the emails. Again, the power of technology. And Côte d'Ivoire has a very special place in my heart because I had a life-changing experience there. I came to work with ONUSI, so it was a special experience. And then, of course, I got involved in a very tragic accident not too far from where the school is, not too far. And so Côte d'Ivoire has a very special place in my heart. And maybe one day I'll return to live in Côte d'Ivoire. I don't know. All right. So this is a very interesting topic that we are looking at. And I have a personal passion for it as well, because I also have children living in this age. So this is not just theoretical. I'll give us some theoretical basis, but it's also going to be very practical. And as I prepare to talk about children and technology, parenting in the digital age, I couldn't help but go back to my own growing up years. In a few years, our children will be grown in university, and married and having their own lives. That's me there, a little boy in class 2. And of course, in our time, there was nothing even like, even computers were rare. You had big computers, there was no way you could hide them, and we had floppy disks, either the 5.5 or 3.25 floppy disks, and only the very rich people had it. But today, technology has advanced so much that almost everyone has a phone, and in fact, in Ghana, in Africa, we have more cell phones than we have people. In other words, the average person has maybe 2 or 3 phones. So very interesting times, how things have changed. I bring you greetings from my own family. And I told you, I'm parenting in this digital age, and I have 7 children. So I have 7 times your joy if you have 1, or 7 times your sorrow, depending on how you look at it. So parenting in the digital era, I am going to look at this from a sociological angle. I'll look at it from technology angle. I'll look at it. Some of it would be from a theological angle. And I say that because a lot of times what we judge is people's behavior. And so, for example, I can give you a list of things to do, or not do, or say, okay, if your child is behaving this way, do that, etc. But behavior alone, trying to change behavior will not be a permanent solution, because our behaviors are fed by our values, right? Our values determine the way we behave. What we do is determined by what we decide is good for us.
L'individu ne sera pas une mince affaire, parce que tout est une question de valeurs. Et les valeurs sont justement construisent, je dis, se reposent sur
which we look at the world. So of course, when I have a biblical worldview, and the school Morning Glory, teaches, generally, and everybody's welcome, no matter what faith you have or no faith. But I think it's very important to share that we are coming from a biblical worldview. There are many, many important things to do for family to thrive that unfortunately many people do not know, because parenting, unfortunately, is not taught in school, right? Some of the most important things in life are not taught in school. So I went to school for many years. I spent 8 years in university studying to be a doctor, and there was not a single course on parenting. All right. So it's something that a lot of us need help in general, but it has even become more compounded in the age that we live in the digital age. So well done for valuing family in an age where people would rather have cats and dogs than have children. We've lived in the city of Montreal for the last 10 years, and sometimes people see us and they think we have too many children, and that they'd rather have a dog or a cat than children. So well done for having children, and bringing them to a great school like Morning Glory. And I hope you also have the high view of Scripture, because it informs us, it forms the core through which we can get our beliefs and then our values, and that determines our behavior. All right. By the way, for those of you who may be interested, after Easter, from 24th April, I'll be running a Family Foundations Mastermind. I try to help parents to get some basic things about marriage and how to do life as family, things we cannot cover in this course. But suffice it to say that family is extremely important. Everything rises and falls on family. Everything. I have a mentor who says everything rises and falls on leadership, but leadership itself rises and falls on family. And so, whatever way you look at it, if you look at it in terms of God, the Creator, in Christianity, we believe that God is Father, Son, Spirit. God is community. So if you look at it that way, God is family. Right? If you look at the centers of influence, family is so important because it is the one sphere that fills and fuels and influences every other sphere, government, entertainment, whatever. Family is the only center that produces human beings for all the other centers of society, right? If you look at it from the cradle perspective, in English, there's a saying that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. If you look at it from the cellular perspective, the family is the basic unit of humanity. If the society is going crazy, it's because family is going crazy. If you look at it in terms of calculating how much we spend our time and our days, well, it is said like the quote in this box here. There's no one who on their deathbed has been ever heard to say, I wish I'd spend more time at work. Right. A lot of people look back and they wish they had spent more time with their families. And if you think of COVID-19 taught us that when the whole world is in trouble, the only place to go is home, right? is there one time we're all told, stay at home, stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. So family is extremely, extremely important. So what I'm going to do as we tackle this topic is 4 main things, 4 C's. But before I get into that, I want to remind us that parenting is a calling. It's a very special calling that God has given you. And it's so important, as I've said, it's a sacred duty. And no matter what the opportunities and challenges are in every era, we are called to respond, no matter how tough it is. So first, I'll give a couple of caveats, all right, to the topic. Number 2, I'll go into the context of this digital era. Talk a bit about history and a bit of explain this digital era into some detail. And then I'll share what I call a concentric approach, to this parenting issue. Because again, I don't just want to I'll give you tips, but I want to look at it a bit more, comprehensively, and then we'll conclude. All right. So what are the caveats I want to give? Just 2 caveats. Number 1 is this, that nothing works until we work it. Nothing works until we work it. All right. Some people are saying, oh, marriage doesn't work anymore. Well, marriage wouldn't work if you don't work it. It's like saying I bought a new Mercedes Benz, and I put seawater from Grand Bassam. I went to Grand Bassam, I found seawater, and I put it in the tank, and now my Mercedes Benz doesn't work. Nothing works until you work it the way it's supposed to be worked. All right. So it's important. If we are not raising our families by biblical principles in the first place, social media wouldn't matter. The digital age wouldn't matter. Our families would not flourish anyway. Right? And you can't blame the digital era generally, or social media in particular, for destroying your child or destroying your family if you are not living by the principles of parenting in the first place, right? So that's an important caveat. Nothing works until we work it. And I love this scripture from Jeremiah 6:16. This is what the Lord says: stand at the crossroads and look, ask for the ancient paths. Yes, there are new technologies, but they are old principles that help us to walk in every era. Ask where the good way is, the values, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. But guess what? The people in Jeremiah's day said, oh no, we will not walk in it. Jamais, never. We will not walk in it. We are not interested. I hope that is not our story here. The second caveat, so the first caveat is that nothing works until we work it, right? If we're not working the principles of parenting, it's not the digital age that's going to destroy us. It's our own lack of living by principles. The second thing is that in a sense, this topic is no topic. In the sense that it's like saying parenting in the age of electricity or parenting in the age of radio or television. What I mean by that is, these digital technologies like electricity or radio or television, they are neutral. They are neutral. They can be used for good or evil. All right. So we have
Can you please slow down a bit for the French translation, Doctor?
Okay.
I think it's not catching up.
It's not catching up. All right. So the second caveat I'm giving is that this topic can seem as ridiculous as parenting in the age of electricity. Is electricity dangerous? Of course, electricity is dangerous, so dangerous, it can kill your child. But what will we do without electricity, right? And so we have measures we take to make the best use of electricity without it harming us. Digital technology is neutral. It can be used for good or harm. We just did exams with it at Morning Glory, right? Teachers give us assignments to go and watch this YouTube video, etc. But at the same time, it can be used for harm. So digital technology is a good servant, but a terrible master. It's a good servant, but a terrible master. All right. So let me talk about the context we find ourselves in. And then we'll look at what to do about this context. Right. So I have entitled this, I've creatively summarized all of history, to today's context as from stones to phones, from stones to phones. In fact, smartphones in particular. So en français, don't worry about the details, but I'm basically saying that we have come from the Stone Age, right, to the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Agrarian Age, the Renaissance, the 13th to the 17th century, the year of the Enlightenment, the 17th to 18th century. Then there was the Industrial Revolution, right? And then Romanticism, Modernism, Postmodernism. We came to the Information Age, the Digital Age. Now, this Digital Age has a number of characteristics, including we liking three things, all right? Instant gratification is one of the characteristics of the Digital Age, because whatever we want, we get it fast. We get it now, okay? So we don't have patience. We can't wait for things, because if it doesn't happen in 3 seconds, it's too long. It's also the age where we have become very self-worshipping, because everything's about me. It's about taking a selfie, putting my stuff on Instagram and all of that. Those are some characteristics of this age. Now, the digital age has a wide scope, right? Everything from artificial intelligence. You probably have heard words like that, buzzwords, artificial intelligence or AI, automation, big data, Internet of Things, the cloud, all right? These are just some of the streams that come under the digital age umbrella. And with advancements in 5G technology, there's going to be even more speed of downloads. There's going to be increased capacity to do good or to do evil, right? There's going to be much more reliability of the internet. And there are going to be more disruptors like Uber, right? Like Airbnb. Airbnb is the largest hotel chain network, yet it doesn't own a single hotel, all right? Netflix, all of these things have come to change the traditional way of doing things. Amazon has beaten Walmart. Why? Because of technology, all right? In fact, I myself, my family, we started a library service for children, giving books. We ship like 5,000 books from Canada to Ghana, and we're working with schools. And then when COVID-19 happened, we went digital. And now because we went digital, we were able to serve 265 schools. Students from 265 schools, about 6,000 children. No way we could have done that physically. And some of these children are not in Accra. They are in the northern parts of Ghana. Some are even not in Ghana. How would we have served them without technology? So that's the context in which we live. Now, parents, you and your children are from different planets. You are galaxies apart, because you and I are what we call digital immigrants. They are digital natives. They were born, I have a 1-year-old who, the first thing he sees when he sees me, the first thing he comes for is my phone. And he knows what to do with the phone. The 2-year-old knows how to pick a phone and take pictures. We had to learn. Some of us went for computer classes. These children don't go for computer classes. They are born with this stuff. Okay, so they're intuitive, they're extremely social, they are multimedia oriented. unlike us. So we come from different planets. Now I have a question for you. Parenting is harder now than it was 20 years ago. Do you agree or not? I'd like to see your response. We know.
I hear you still slow down, eh? Doc.
Okay.
You have to slow down. Yeah.
Okay. So can you put in the chat true? Some say true. Some say depends. Some say agree. Okay. Adila agrees. Patricia says it depends. Patricia, what does it depend on? On which Emilia says it's true. All right. But why? If you say it's true, c'est vrai, Marielle, pourquoi? Why? Why? If you say true, tell us why. Or not true, tell us why. Okay, Patricia, you want to tell us why? Can you unmute Patricia to tell us why? I saw her, she raised her hand. Operator, can you unmute Patricia? Or she'll have to type it.
Okay, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I specifically said it depends because
Okay.
it depends on how exactly you use technology.
Okay.
Like me as a working mother, sometimes
Yes.
I'm really very busy, traveling here and there.
Mhm.
Technology has helped me to be in touch very closely with the teachers themselves. So I'm able to get very close to them on certain issues we need to deal with them because we are in this together.
Mhm.
And secondly, I think it has also helped me as a parent. I've learned online from my own perspective, which I would not have known if it was not for technology. However, there is also a side part of it, specifically still in my own example, where sometimes it's hard to get them even to get out of the house to play. So it's like they are glued on their tools, their systems. Yes, sometimes I woke up one day and realized that actually they have all their groups, they are in a connection. They don't have a telephone. They don't have, but they connect through apps and they're busy chatting late in the night. So it's like, as you said, you're wondering exactly even how can I prove that these are the workmates. So it's like, it's a two-way traffic, but it depends on exactly which part you want to take. It really depends and you cannot do away with it.
Excellent. Lovely submission. Excellent, Patricia. Thanks for sharing that. Well, I love the comments. Maria says our children are more advanced than us in smart and technology. Omar says, I agree with Patricia that it depends. But do we actually know what parenting was like 20 years ago? All right, that's a good one. All right, so I don't have the statistics for Cote d'Ivoire or Ghana or Africa in general, but in the US, 2/3 of parents say that parenting is harder now than 20 years ago. And the major thing they cite is technologies, social media, smartphones. They say parenting is harder. 80% say parenting is harder. Now, whether it's text message or smartphone app like Instagram or Snapchat, today's children and youth are able to share personal information and be personally impacted far beyond what their parents, what we could envisage when we were young. These are some of the reasons they give for parenting being harder now. Technology in general, social media in general, you can see that between the two of them, it's almost half of the reasons. And then people give other reasons like changing morals and exposure because of tech. Again, you see it's also related to the digital. Things are more expensive to parent. They can't discipline kids like before. Kids are less respectful. They feel entitled. Parents face more judgment. There's higher expectations, right? In fact, even social media has made expectations even higher because now your children are looking at what other children are doing. People are taking their children on vacation and they're looking at it and say, why are we not going on vacation? You know, at first you wouldn't know what another family is doing. I wouldn't see what's in your bedroom. unless I came there. But now you take a phone shot, I know what's in your bedroom. I see what device you're using, how big your plasma TV screen is. All right. And the other reasons that they give: less family time, cyberbullying, online predators, and all of that. So these are reasons why 80% of two-thirds of US parents say that, hey, parenting is more difficult now. Now, a majority, 71% of parents are concerned that their children might spend too much time in front of screens. And 84% are confident that, I can control that. I know how much screen time is appropriate. But I have a question for you. If you are concerned about your children spending too much time on the screen, all right, who will you turn to? If you look at the research that was done by Pew, most people somehow turn to doctors and other medical professionals for advice. Some turn to other parents. How do I deal with this? My child is spending too much time on the screen. Some turn to teachers, maybe teachers at Morning Glory. Some go to parenting websites and blogs, books, magazines, social media sites, etc. All right, but it is a concern. The majority of parents are concerned that their children might be spending too much time on screens. Now, another question I have for you is, and Headmistress and I talked about this, giving children devices. What age do you think is acceptable that a child will have their own smartphone? In the research that was done, most parents did not think it was acceptable for a child under the age of 12 to have their own smartphone. What do you think? What's the age at which a child can have their own smartphone? Don't forget that a smartphone is a very personal thing. You can squeeze it, you can hide it in all kinds of places, and it becomes like almost an extension of you. It's not quite the same even as a tablet or a computer. Somebody says 16 and above, 14 and above, okay? 18 plus, I like that. Welcome to Africa. But I know that there are children as little as 6 who have given their own smartphones, even in Morning Glory. So this is a significant issue, and probably during the question and answer, we will talk about it some more. Then there's YouTube. 80% of parents say their young children watch YouTube videos because, of course, there's nursery rhymes on YouTube as well as pornography. It's like there's everything. And sometimes it's even the adverts that shows up while you're trying to play something. So you're trying to play something that is totally neutral, so totally, and then there's an ad that somebody says something that does not fit with the values that you subscribe to. All right. So this is the context in which we find ourselves today. Now, let me talk about why I'm talking about a concentric approach, because at the end of the day, we want to find out, so how should we live? So how should we live? What should we do? Now, it's very easy to give you a list of parenting ideas and specific digital do's and don'ts, but they won't help you in the long term because technology itself is changing so fast that some advice I give you today may be archaic by next week. What we need to win is a more strategic look at this issue, not just logistical. And though many of you are in the marketplace, you probably have come across Simon Sinek's golden circles. I've adopted that, to say that just like I showed you the core as well view and the behavior only as the outer thing, I'm going to give you some tips, some logistical tips when it comes to parenting in the digital age. Everybody knows it, or everybody should know these things, but some things will be more tactical, but the most important things are the strategic things, all right? In other words, what is your why for parenting? What is your vision for your child? What is your vision for your home? I have been inspired by a mentor who prayed this prayer, and it's also been my prayer. He said, God, would you work a miracle and give us X number of faithful children who would on average have X number of faithful children, generation after generation for the next 200 years. This person is a Christian. I don't know how many of you are or not, but this person wanted to have 8 children and said that in 200 years, these 8 children who have had 8 children, who have had 8 children, who have had 8 children, will produce 2 million followers of Jesus Christ, 21,000 pastors, 10,000 plus missionaries, and would have given $478 billion to the kingdom of God. This is their vision. And that vision will affect their parenting. And the digital aspect of things is a small part of parenting. So, for example, my own family has a family vision statement. We want to be a financially free, front-running family of families with generation after generation of godly marriages and parenting, always for the glory of God. Now, we are passionate for the glory of God. And so because of that, in our parenting of our children, we want them to understand that what you are watching, daddy may not be there, mommy may not be there, but will this glorify God? Because we cannot be there all the time. I'm going to give you tips how you can track your children's accounts, some things, some measures you can put in place. But those are, like I said, logistical things. But we need to first get the strategic things right. Do you have a family mission statement? For example, in our family mission statement, one of the clauses in there says that any entertainment in our home must be wholesome, building, and beneficial. So sometimes the children themselves will be watching something on Netflix. Sometimes we are not sure what the age is, etc. So we have a code on it. They have to call me or my wife to uncode it before they can watch it. But we tell them, all right, mommy and daddy may not be able to watch this movie with you, but you know what is wholesome, building, and beneficial. If you find that something isn't, let us know. Just 3 days ago, they started watching one of these movies, and they themselves stopped the movie and came to tell us that they think that our 5th child, she's like a sponge. She just soaks up everything she watches. They said they think our 5th child will be affected by this movie because it was a teenage movie. It was a animation, but it was of a teenager, and she was very sassy, and very, yeah, you can't talk to me like that, that kind of thing. And they said, mommy, we are not going to continue to watch this movie. Daddy, can we change it? All right. So that is where I would love for us to come from, that we are strategic in our family mission statement, our family vision statement, our values are clear, so that no matter what, if we slip somewhere in the tips and the logistics, our children themselves will know that in this house, this doesn't cut it. I'm not saying it's easy. That's why it says the prayer is that God, will you work a miracle? All right? Because we cannot turn the hearts of people. It is God who does. So now I'll give you some of the tactical and logistical things, and then we can have our Q&A. The 5 main concerns that we have, and most parents have, are general safety on this digital age, including cyberbullying. And by the way, Google has a program you can do to help your child to get smart when it comes to cyberbullying. All right. Maybe I send the link to headmistress and she can send it. It's like a game, and they play it in 4 or 5 stages, and it teaches them the things to watch out for. Don't give your name to somebody you don't know and things like that. So it's like a game, and they have different levels and they graduate. So it just makes them to be better cyber citizens. All right. So general concerns are general safety, appropriate content and interaction, privacy issues, limits or screen time, and just distraction. Okay. By the way, when it comes to interacting, I hope you know the term sexting. Sexting is sending sexually explicit messages and photos or videos between smartphones or social media apps. It can also happen over email, but instead of texting, they do what is called sexting. All right. Anyway, so the tips I'm going to share now are mainly the privacy, the limits, screen times, the distractions for tactical reasons, and then I'll end with the general safety and appropriate content ones as logistical ones. All right. So as much as possible for privacy, read a website's privacy policy before sharing any personal information. Now, I know it's hard to do. I usually just click, I agree, right? But the way the world is getting, and it's usually so long, you don't even want to bother yourself. But as much as possible, we may have to be a bit more careful, especially if the child is involved, right? To read the privacy policy so that your information, the child's information, is not sent out there. Check your child's privacy policy settings, all right, to make sure that they aren't sharing more information than you want. For example, you don't want their birth date out there or their specific locations. Speaking about location, sometimes there's a GPS-enabled smartphone or tablet. Like if you go on Facebook, you know, when you put a picture, it may ask you, you know, state where you are, Grand Bassam, or are you in Sokodi or whatever it is, you know. For your children, you want to remove the geotags, all right, so that, because there are people who are preying around on the internet who then want to find this child. Sometimes it's like kidnaps, which happen in places like Nigeria more than Cote d'Ivoire or Ghana, you know, but you never know who wants to find your child. So you may want to disable the exact location where the photo is taken.
No, can you please take this one, very important, slowly? The French version, they are lost. If you can take it slowly, one by one, very important part where you have reached. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So from the beginning or just the GPS part? Okay. So
start from the privacy.
Yes. Okay. All right. So if much as possible, read a website's privacy policy before sharing personal information.
Il faut, si possible, lire lire les réglages sur la vie privée de l'enfant pour ne pas, sur son appareil, pour ne pas qu'il partage des informations trop personnelles telles que l'âge, telles que la localisation.
You know, should it give it permission, you know, to tell you where you are? You say no when it's a child, you know, and you need to tell the child that as well. All right. And if possible, disable those geotags, turn them off the devices, especially when they take pictures and they're sharing. Then encourage your child to use an online nickname. You know, it's not always possible, especially for schoolwork, but schoolwork usually is within the context of a Google Classroom or things like that. But if it's out there, if it's possible, let them use an online name, not their real name. All right, some more privacy things. Make sure your child keeps the account password protected, and let them change passwords often, right? Because somebody can get in there. Remind them not to share their passwords, even with friends. I know that may not sound nice, but they are children. They are not adults. Let's remember, and they need to be protected. Your child should not accept friends' requests or actively connect with people they don't know in real life. I know it's easier said than done, but it can cause real harm. When I was in Canada, we had a case where a child was totally, almost driven to the point of suicide because a stranger got her contact and just drove her crazy. All right. And explain, this is very important. Explain that Snapchat posts are not temporary as they were intended to be. So those of you who do not know, Snapchat is an app where you take the picture of whatever it is, and after a few seconds, it's supposed to disappear. But people forget that people can take screenshots of the photo before it disappears. And so they will haunt you with it. Some girl did it, you know, showed her breast, and the next thing you knew, everybody in the school had a copy of it. They thought it was Snapchat, and so it would disappear. No, remember, the internet never forgets. The internet never forgets, all right? And then, of course, encourage them to protect and respect their friends' privacy too. I mean, they should ask permission before posting something about a friend, such as a photo or a video. Right? They should be aware that, I know, the friends should be aware that you are posting this as much as possible. Okay. Some of these are good for adults too, right? And we may skip some of them as adults, but especially for children, this is essential. When it comes to limits or screen times, The most important thing about this, and I'm going to be a bit hard on us as adults, the most important thing about limits or screen time is that we must model good behavior ourselves. You have Facebook, I have Facebook, you have Instagram, and when we are always on it, guess what? Children don't do as we say, they do as they see. Children don't do as we say, they do as they see. They don't do what they are told. They do what they see. All right. So we ourselves must model this good behavior. And then let us set screen time limits. Appropriate number of minutes, set rules on when screens are appropriate to use. So for example, in my home, there's no watching of television, Netflix videos during the school week. That's just the way it is. If they're using the computer, it's because it's for schoolwork. That's the way we've done it. And then on the weekends, they get to play video games, etc. Even that one, we have set a timer on it. Before 8 in the morning, it will not work. It will not work. It will only come on after 8. And then every child has a number of hours we have programmed into their video game. So when your time is up, it's up, unless you use somebody else, somebody allows you to use the account, things like that. There's got to be limits. This whole idea of you are stepping on a child's rights or no, there's got to be limits. If you take a fish out of water, you're not helping it. Saying, it's limited by the water. You put it on land, it's going to die. Limits are a blessing. All right, limits are a blessing, right? So teach your child the value of unplugging from devices for tech-free time, technology-free time. And keep in mind that some children have what they call streaks. Streaks it's almost like you need to come and mark a register every time to say that you are fine, you're doing well. So losing their smartphone or losing social media privilege can really trigger stress and anxiety for some children because they can't maintain their streak. They can't kind of mark present to their friends that they are around and they are cool and life is great. Okay, all right, but we've got to teach children to unplug. And again, we've got to model that. In the research that Peel did, they found that roughly 8 in 10 or more parents limit when and how long their children can use their screens digitally. And I think that's a good thing. Digitally grounding your children is a very powerful way to punish them for consequences because they are digital natives. Being online, being on their devices is so important to them. Maybe grounding them that way is more effective than caning a child or sending them on time out. Check the websites and apps that they use. Use parental controls. Like I said, actually, my wife is really good at setting parental controls. And that's been a blessing. Between the two of you as parents, see who is better at it and let them do it. All right. And then check the websites they use, the apps, the games, and things like that. Okay. Check the friends they follow. Check on them. All right. Then there's distraction. This is, and I saw some comments in the chat, withdrawal from real life. The excitement and immediacy of social media can make everyday life seem dull. But real life is what we and I are doing, not just what people show on social media. So let's be careful about that distraction. Sometimes we actually love that being on social media because real life is too hard to deal with. And then important to seek, there's the surface level attention that people get. You're chatting with somebody, it's like, oh wow, this is awesome, but talking to a real person, your parent or a sibling, is hard. All right, being a parent can sometimes be lonely. It's no wonder so many of us turn to social media for connection. The problem is when we get more hung up on getting likes than strengthening real relationships. So let's be careful about the distraction of social media. It makes us get out of real life for a while. And it's fine for a moment, but we'll come back to reality. All right. Even parents admit, almost 70% of parents admitted that they themselves feel distracted by their phone, even when spending time with their children. Let me end, my time is up, by a few more tips. It's important for us to learn about the different types of technologies and programs and apps that children are using to help keep them safe online. All right. Parenting is not, it's a hard job. It's a significant job. Okay. So I remember a parent who said to one of my friends who was a youth pastor, well, I hope you're teaching him the Bible because I don't have time for that. And I thought that was so sad, you know, that a parent will say that. Let's take the time to learn the things that the children are involved in. Let's show interest in their online life and ask questions, you know. And when possible, let's keep the tablets and computers in common areas where you can watch what the child is doing. You know, in fact, our oldest son, at a point we had to tell him, you know what, use this computer, use this tablet on the dining table and let your back be at a place where we can see you, rather than behind the wall something. It's for your own protection. Let them know it's for their own protection. Like we build a wall around our house, it's not because we want to restrict ourselves, it's because it actually is going to protect us. All right. And if you can get family online protection, there are programs that block certain websites, that enforce time limits, like I just shared with you with our children, that monitor your websites, the child visits, and their online conversations. And then lastly, follow your child's online accounts. Recently, so our oldest is in secondary school. Recently, he went on some websites, and we got to know because we have access. We monitor the account, and he realized that we knew, because I realized that the next day he called sick at the sick bay, you know, and we tried to talk with him, but eventually we didn't get to talk to him. But I knew he was doing that because we knew that he probably had been caught. Ask them about the people they meet in line. Talk about the importance of keeping online friendships in the online world, and discuss what's okay and safe to post online and what isn't. There's got to be conversation. And don't forget, now that some of you have older children, teens may even try to find dates and sexual partners online. So these are some reasons, you know, like I said, my wife and I have a digital online library. I'm sure headmistress can tell you more about that. It's called PERBI Caps, where we have all these books that are curated, you know, because even just books, there's all kinds of philosophies people want to teach our children, even so-called innocent books. So these say general safety and appropriate content, interaction, privacy limits, etc., are some of the reasons why we have created that. So in conclusion, my friends, you may be wrong about your job or profession as your calling. Or maybe you were not called to be a doctor, you were really called to be a lawyer, or whatever it is. You may be wrong about your calling in that way, but you cannot be wrong about your calling to be a parent. And for a child that came from your loins, he cannot be wrong about that. So we've got to be responsible. I like the word responsible because it means the ability to respond. We need to be responsible. So yes, the digital world, the digital era has brought about certain opportunities and certain challenges, and our ability to respond is what makes us responsible. Yes, we must serve our children. Yes, we must influence them. But yes, we must also be responsible. My prayer for you is that, like Jesus grew in wisdom, so he grew intellectually, he grew in stature physically, he grew in favor with God socially, and in favor with God spiritually, and in favor with man socially, that our children will grow holistically. I really want to encourage you that if you do not yet have a family vision statement and a family mission statement, that start from there. Start from the strategic. What is your desire that your family will be used by God to further his kingdom, will make an impact and all of that? Start from that big picture and then work your way towards these rules. Have rhythms in your family. All right. So our children know that Sundays we go to church. We have wake up times, we have sleep times. We have time for quiet time, we have time for family devotions. We have our Sabbath. let there be rhythms. All right, those are the big picture things, so that these little rules will be a good, would be good things to hang on, but you have the big picture, which will save you and save the family, even when you are not physically there, to ensure the little rules. So I hope this has been useful, and it'll be great to take any questions and comments at this time.
I'll read some of the questions.
Okay.
Okay, so someone says, how do you find out your child has any internet account?
That's a good one. That's why I said that we need to look at this first from a strategic place before we come to specifics. So what we did with our children is that we helped them create their email accounts. So we know their passwords, and we've also connected it in a way that gets us, we get notifications when they get emails and things like that. That is the best way. We've got to be proactive, so you say, all right, hey, let's help you set up your account that way. But of course, the child can go ahead and sneak and create theirs. And a child that really wants to hide will. But what you may notice is that certain communication is not coming through the email that you set for him, or you set together. And that may give you some clue that this child may be getting messages elsewhere. But otherwise, if a child really wants to hide, they will.
Okay, so we have a question in French. I'll say it in English for Doc, and then I'll read it in French. The question says that what's the ideal time for a child who is 15 years plus to use a smartphone? So ideally, what's the right number of hours or right number of time for a 15-year-old?
Sure. That's a good question. Again, the challenge is giving directives and say, okay, it's 5 hours, it's good, 2 hours, good, but it's not even sitting at one time that causes the issue. It's the constant checking that causes the issue, because I get surprised when I get a report from Apple and I see how many hours I've spent on the phone. I get shocked. I'm like, no, it's not possible, because I never sit to spend 1 hour on the phone, never. And yet the 20 minutes here, the 10 minutes there, the 5 minutes there ends up being cumulative 7 hours. So I'm sure the person who asked the question will not be too happy that I'm not giving an answer about the specific number of hours, but I will encourage that 15-year-old to ask themselves, number one, are they engaged with the people in their lives, or are they distracted by the phone? Number two, scripture says all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful, right? A child 15 can have a phone, they can look at things, they can browse, but is this phone helping you or harming you? Those are questions that we actually need to engage the 15-year-old to ask themselves. All right. At night, she's up or he's up, chatting, etc., yawning when it's time to go to school. That right there is a teachable moment where I say, wow, how come you're yawning? Were you staying up to do your homework? I would say, no, I was on the phone, whatever. So then there's a conversation there. So for a 15-year-old, they really, when they are younger, you can say, yeah, it's 1 hour. You can set some of those, but as they get older, we've got to teach them. I had a quote today that I really liked, that do not prepare the path for them, rather prepare them for the path, right? Because some of us will not even be there to prepare the path for them, but you can prepare them for the path. So have those conversations and say, it's not how many hours when you're 15, but it's what it does for you, whether it's helping you or it's harming you. That's the way I will go about it. Yes.
Okay, another question, but before that, I would like to read a contribution by one of our parents, Mrs. Bandeli. Let's always ensure we Google our children's name at least once a month. There's a likelihood that they use their real names online. That was a contribution.
Okay.
And the question, is it okay for parents to read their children's conversations online?
I believe so. And I say this because, and again, I've lived in the West, so I know that people are very, very, almost anal about privacy, etc. But a child is a child, is a child, is a child. Until a child leaves from under your roof, until a child is 18 or whatever the legal age is where you are and is on their own, they are your responsibility. They are my responsibility. So yes, I would say yes, it is fine. And I do not think we should feel guilty about it, because a child is a child, is a child, is a child. And some of us are treating our children like adults. And sometimes we do that because we ourselves are feeling guilty for not doing certain things we should do. So for example, we are not being around, and so we give them a phone, thinking that it's compensating for our own not being around. No. And we are ending up harming our own children. Please remember that a child is a child. And until they leave your home, they are your responsibility.
Oh, okay. We have a question in French from a parent who is asking in French, if your child is addicted to social media and usage of the internet, what do you do? How do you get the child out of addiction?
Wow, that's a very, very good question. And I must say that there are, depending on the level of the addiction, we might have to get extra help. So if the level of addiction is very serious, you might actually have to let the child see a psychologist or a therapist. And having said that, let me say this, that parenting, we are ultimately responsible, but we also must have a community of people who help us to parent. All right, in Africa, now the West has stolen that statement from Africa. We are the ones who say it takes a village to raise a child. And it really does. So Mrs. Vivian is part of your village for raising the child, but she's not ultimately responsible. She did not give birth to the child. You are, I am, okay? But she is part of that network, of the ecosystem to raise that child. I'll give you some research we did in North America showed that a child needs 5 role models, 5 adult contact points to be able to grow well, especially to be able to grow like they Luke 2:52 in wisdom and stature, finding favor of God. You and I are not enough in that sense, right? A child needs that, oh, that uncle, oh, he's very good in computers. Oh, that aunt, oh, she dresses so well. Needs 5 role models, 5, so you and I form 2 of that, mother and father, but you need at least 3, 4 other adults, So I'm saying that in connection with that question, that you may need some other people to help you with a child when they've had that kind of addiction, or you may have to see a psychologist or a therapist to help.
Before the next question, another comment. It's actually a scripture shared by one of our parents, Bishop Okoboteduku.
Hey, Bishop, long time.
Now I say that the heir, as long as he's a child, different nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the father. Okay. And then the question, is there any way we can set the account, that the children's account, in such a way that we can, they can be connected to our phones so that we can monitor what they do online? That was a question. Is there any way we can set accounts on our phones that can help us monitor what our children do online?
Yes, there is a way. And like I said, between my wife and I, my wife is actually better at this than I am. So she has set those on her phone. So sometimes she gets a notification and says, somebody is trying to be smart. So yes, there is a way. And please, I don't know whether the school has some IT experts, or you can Google, check online. But yes, there is a way to do that, and you can get the notifications on your phone. Yes.
Okay. I'll read a comment from a parent before I read a question. She's saying she wrote it in French. She says that she agrees with the speaker, and that she's had such an experience with her daughter. And her daughter takes all her time on the phone and sleeps late. And so once she realized this, she had to give her a lot of warnings, but she didn't, the daughter didn't mind it. So she seized the phone and the tablet and her computer, and it's been 1 year. So that's how she's been able to deal with it, yes. Now, the question is, how do you react to your words when they are angry and agitating once you seize their phones, tablets, or close even their accounts?
That's right. And that is to be expected, right? Because and that is, for me, that is even to be encouraged, because we don't want to stifle the emotions of our children. Many of us, when we're growing up, we're not allowed to feel what we feel. It's like, straighten your face. The face may be straightened, but the heart is still not straightened. I'm sure you heard the story of the woman who kept trying to tell the child, sit down, and the child would not sit down, the child not sit down. Eventually, she pushed the child and put her down. And the child said, outside I am sitting, but inside I'm still standing. So it's okay to let them express their anger, but again, that becomes a point of information, a point of conversation, right? Oh, I see that you are so upset that I closed your account. Can we talk about it? Why are you so upset? Is it because you're feeling entitled? Is it because you feel that I don't love you or whatever? Let that be a point of conversation, and totally say, I understand the way you feel, but I am your parent. I am responsible for you. God will ask me why I did not take care of you. God will ask me, why I did not set, we have dogs in this house, we have, you have cattle, etc. You put a fence around them, all right, so that it protects them. That's all I'm trying to do. And I'm kind of rehearsing the conversation here, and let's not be afraid of the anger of our children. Honestly, sometimes I think our generation of parents, there's something wrong with us. It's like we're afraid of our children. We are in charge. Okay, so yes, they'll be angry. Let's have a conversation about it, and let them understand why you're doing things this way. And after a while, they will get over it. Let me tell you something. It's like when you have a little puppy and you don't train it well, it grows up to be a wild dog, and soon it's controlling you. All right, that is what many of us have done with children. And I'm saying this with pain in my heart, because I got a case that I had to deal with, a 14-year-old boy. Now, I went to see this 14-year-old boy, And he was a tiny boy. And he's been bullying his grandmother and doing whatever he wants. I went to his room because they had called me in because the boy was now out of control. I went to his room, and while I was talking with him, he was on his phone. You see that that's the way he's been allowed to do whatever he wants. And honestly, I could not believe it because he was the same age as my son, and my son won't dare behave that way. So I said to him, "Hey, young man, I have left my home in Accra and come all the way here to Tama. The least you can do is to look at my face when I'm talking to you. I find this rude." Sometimes our children need to be called out for these things. And when they realize that you are serious, they sit up. And he did sit up, and we did have a conversation. And in the end, we even prayed together. If we are, you see, and this part of what the liberal society is trying to do is to take away the spiritual authority of parents and to make it seem like that authority is vested in government. That is not the biblical order of things. And if we don't take care, the next generation will just be overrun by thugs and whatnot. So please take charge, because God has given you that responsibility. And when they are on their own and they want to do what, tell them that, look, when you're 18, you can eat whatever you want. You can sleep wherever you want, with whoever you want. You can watch all day and not go to university lectures. But while you are in my house, while I am paying your school fees and feeding you, I am in charge. You can get angry, I understand, but I am in charge. Yes, a child is a child is a child is a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doc, it's becoming interesting, but we'll take two more questions. One from an Anglophone, one from a Francophone, and then we'll want to close. Two more questions. Michelle, whoever is leading.
The English side, there are no questions, but rather contributions. So I'll just quickly read maybe, two of them. Thank you for reiterating that we are in charge. And then another parent says, we need God's wisdom and help to succeed in our duties as parents.
Yes.
And then the last one from the Walani family. Thank you, Madam Headmistress and the entire team of Mgis for doing so many things to help not only the students, but the parents as well for the better future of all our children. Thank you, Mr. PERBI, for all the details and information you have shared with us. Have a nice evening.
Okay, for the French, we also don't have any question that has been posted. Think comments. So the first comment is it's a very long comment but interesting. He says that he agrees with Dr. PERBI and is happy about the presentation, but this issue about internet and technology brings a lot of tension between parents and children. And it's very necessary that we impose limits to the children and how they use it. He also said that we have to look at parents. Parents are also addicted to the internet. Yes. And so if parents are able to cut down their usage, then the children will also be able to follow suit. And so it's important that parents learn how to eat together on the same table, learn how to play games. He was saying that they could play divinette, I forgot how to say, riddles, play riddle games and laugh, have a good time as a family, and that helps. That helps it. Another comment from someone in French says that, okay, so it was a continuation of the woman who, Madame Ouattara, who withdrew her tablets and computers from her daughter. She said that Okay, so she said that, which this is a very interesting one. She said that she was asked, yes, on Saturday they had oral exams, and she was asked, the invigilator or examiner asked her what was her view on technology. And she responded, she responded just like the mom would have responded. So it looks like the lesson she's taught her daughter has worked after redrawing the tablets.
That's encouraging. That's encouraging. I wish it always is like that, but sometimes it doesn't end that way. That's why, I saw a comment there that we really need to ask God for his help, because at the end of the day, you cannot go, the way to change the handle of the door to our children's hearts is inside. It's not outside. At the end of the day, they will have to decide, how they respond. So one child, you can treat two children a similar way, and one child will react badly, the other child will react well, depending on the attitude of the heart. Like they say, the same heat that melts the butter hardens the egg. The same heat. But butter will melt, egg will become hard, right? So we really need to pray that God give our children hearts that are willing to love you, to be transformed, and then to also transform society. God bless you for having me here.
Thank you very much, Dr. PERBI. Yes, it goes on and it goes on, and we would continue to talk about it. Thank you for accepting. I know you are very busy, but you accepted to be here with us. And as you promised that you would come to Morning Glory, I think from what a parent is asking, how do we get in touch with Dr. PERBI after this particular webinar? So I think, as the students said, they were praying that you would miss your flight so that you would continue to talk to them.
Yeah,
you have promised to come back. So I think with the pandemic behind us, we will invite you and then fly in to have a lengthy time with us. So thank you very much. We want to thank our parents who have stayed on. I know some of them are going to breakfast, but they are still with us. Thank you very much. Thank you, the technical team and all the teachers and all those who put this program. It's a real success, and we want to give God all the glory. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Yao PERBI. Thank you again for accepting our invitation and for this excellent presentation.
It's a pleasure.
Good night.
God bless us all.
God bless you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.